Welcome again to ShopDog-Garage. We have an unusual project. ShopDog's checking. Brian has brought over something he's been working on for how long? 50, 80 years? Something like that?
Oh, 5.
5 years? That's been way more than 5 years. It was yellow 5 years ago. So anyway, Brian's got this beat up old bike that he decided he didn't want it to be a beat up old bike anymore. So he took it apart, got it painted, got himself a better motor, and apparently a cart full of parts. And his wife told him that if he doesn't turn this into a bike again soon, he's got to get rid of it. So suddenly, the fire is lit, and like most people, he's realized it's time. So we're going to set him up a section here to work, and before spring comes around, this will be a running, driving motorbike. Correct?
Yes, that is the plan.
And on the upside, it's very, very slippery here. I don't know where he's going. Okay, we got that unloaded. Hound is back out. More stuff. Okay, one of the things this is here for is Brian is absolutely terrified of wires. So he bought a little kit, the Ultima single fire programmable ignition kit. And so there's that. And this is all, in theory, going to run that motor, charge the battery. Let's see, what else can we do? Apparently we can do tail lights, right rear, left rear, turn signals, some brake lights, kill start. Got to start the motor. Yeah, so this cute little brain box should run everything. What we would like to do when it all goes together, and is part of why the engine has to be here, is to make sure everything goes where it needs to go, is make certain that it's accessible in the future. What somebody had started doing was put a little circuit breaker box right under the transmission here. And as soon as I saw that, that made me nervous, because how would you ever service that once you would literally have to take the bike apart if a circuit breaker failed. So we'd rather not do that. And I'm pretty certain that that is probably where the regulator winds up mounted, either which way, but we'll deal with that as we learn. It can't be that much different than a car. I mean, I got a horn button. I mean, I'm sure that's just going to be a contact on this, probably in this harness somewhere. What else you got here? Turn signals, high beams, low beams. I mean, we're not talking rocket surgery here. There's only a few switches, and it looks like that controls almost all of it. So if possible, depending on the height the bike sits at, I'd like to find a spot that's serviceable but also safe. I don't want debris kicking up and stranding them anywhere. The days of everything just being mechanical are long gone. Let's see, we got mechanical speedo. That's kind of nice. We have what looks like an oil pressure gauge here. Gonna have to figure out where that gets displayed. I don't see a whole bunch of other gauges, so maybe that's just a feedback to the electronic ignition. So I haven't gone through all this yet. We got a neutral switch, a brake switch. Okay, oil switch does go right in. Okay, so wow, this is smart enough to say, hey, we don't have oil pressure, let's stop this bike. That's pretty slick. Oh, and he unwrapped that. That's interesting. Gonna have to figure out how all this works, but that's his actual ignition that works with all of this. And this must be his coil, because if it isn't, I don't know what on earth it would be. And that looks like a trigger. So yeah, see, you got, and they are not 100. Oh, that's right, this is not an even fire bike, is it? This is a shaker. It's a Harley based bike, right? So it's yeah. What is it, 240 and 180 or something? I don't know. I know they don't fire even. It's not smooth, and that part of that is due to the bank angle. So we're going to be learning a few things. ShopDog is not sure about this. All right, I've learned a few things. One, we figured out what the coil is. This is considered the single fire, single coil. And this is the front, this is the rear. don't want to relearn all that. We now know how that little module gets runs. That goes under that crank cover. This is his original dual coil setup, as well as his turn signals, which were here, and his ignition. We're going to be mounting this where this used to mount, and then still have to come up with somewhere for the key. Well, we'll figure that out. That can't be the hardest thing in the world. He thinks he can get a fancy little cover to go over that too, to make it look pretty like these did. So he's going to look into that. This little box is pretty much everything. And what we'll have to do before we do any wiring, and I know he said it's a lot of work, we're going to have to mount the engine and trans into the chassis and look at what clearances are and stuff, because I don't know. I don't work on these, so I don't have that in my head. But maybe this location under the transmission, maybe we can make some kind of sliding bracket for that to be mounted for service, where you don't have to pull everything. But I'd like to see what the clearances look like and how hard it is to get in and out of there. Apparently this is a common location for the voltage regulator, so we will go with that. But yeah, so we got the engine sitting here, big old sprocket coming off of it. Yeah, it's heavy. I picked it out of the truck. It was a little heavier than I expected, but it is what it is. But yeah, that coil mounts here on a bracket that goes across, which is in his pile here somewhere. And of course we got all of that going for the transmission and the belt drive and everything, so that's gonna be fun. Yeah, here's the gearbox, it looks like, just judging by what I'm seeing here. So without anybody telling me what's going on, I'm running under the assumption that that gearbox is chain driven and then it drives the belt. But I will learn. How hard can this be? All right, Brian's heading out. He is going to get his motorcycle lift loaded up in his truck and bring that by tomorrow. We've decided that that's probably going to be the easiest way for us to work. One of the things we're looking at is trying to set it up so the bike itself isn't under a car. This area is probably, well, there or where it is now, and we may slide the lift a couple feet that way just to create a nice work environment. But this will be here for a few months. It can't be that hard. Started him down the trend of, there's some nice stuff out there now, instead of this boring gauge, because if you're going to do upgrades, this is literally the time to do it while it's going together. We pulled this apart. This is fully potted, so we're pretty happy about that. Means the area we want to mount it is perfectly acceptable. And I would like to mount it to a plate that then can be bolted from underneath to make it easy to remove. It looks like they gave us, quite a few breakaway harnesses. And we went down the gauge route because we were looking at, what we do and don't need. And I was like, well, don't have any indicator lights on here that I can see. And he's like, well, so we'll see. Obviously, this isn't how we're powering the coil. That wire is just going to power this fancy electronic ignition. We have the battery wire on the starter. Hopefully, it's still going to reach. It should, though, because I don't imagine... Well, that's just it. I don't know if this went in that little box they had or if it went up to the battery. So, but, actually, it doesn't matter. See that? See how it's moving? We don't like that. There's fatigue here. That copper's coming apart. So we'll be building a new cable or buying a new cable anyway. But at least, hopefully, this shows me the length. But yeah, that's a future failure point right there. So, and these things vibrate quite heavily. So you would expect that. But whoever did this probably had, when they cut the copper, they had it longer than it needed to be. So it wasn't sitting flush. Because you notice the heat shrink isn't even supporting anything. So that was always going to fail at some point. Not sure what's going on here. Well, we'll figure out. I do have his original harness from when it had the shovel head in it. So that can help us figure some of that out. But, and honestly, if I need any weird connectors, this is where we're going to have to harvest them. But I'm kind of hoping we don't need any old connectors. It's like the new voltage reg obviously already has that. Don't know that I need any of this. So, yeah, we'll get it sorted out. It just can't be the end of the world here. It just can't. So, the bigger thing is, it sure looks like there's an awful lot of parts to put all this together that I wasn't expecting. Yeah, there's definitely a little involved. Well, you look at that, and this looks like some kind of belt drive, and this has got a sprocket on it. Oh, I bet that. Oh, and look at that heavy chain. Hey, I bet that. See that double roller sprocket there? And this giant heavy chain here. Oh, and there's our double roller. Oh, this must be the ring gear for the starter. There, yeah, so that chain. Okay, so that engine does drive a chain to drive the input to the transmission. And then this, it looks like a planetary. This isn't an automatic. Not that I'm aware. Well, actually, I don't know that. Let's look. Okay, so that must all be mounted here. And then there's that giant belt, which is also driven here. Uh-oh, somebody's sneaking up on us. Who's sneaking up on us? Neighbor Jeff. Okay, yeah, he just ran the gate so Brian could go get that loaded. Okay. Pressure switch here. Oh, I bet that runs the tail light, or the brake light. Got a suspicion. So, anyway, that giant belt. So, we got that chain running, driving this. Somewhere there's got to be... Oh, well, this is what's driving that giant belt to that sprocket on the tire. Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, this... But doesn't this look like a clutch or a sun gear or something? So all of that has to mount on this side here. So over on this side, well, oh, there's something delicate. He's got taped with old tape here. And I'm sure that has to do with shifting linkage, which I'm sure is here somewhere. It's got to be here. Remember, I haven't been on a motorcycle in 30 years, so I don't remember much. Turns out, even when I was young, my back doesn't appreciate this. This isn't really high on my list of things that my back enjoys. Yeah, because we've got our foot peg and our rear brake. So somewhere in all of that is going to be the shifter for gear selector, which should be over here. We are going to have to go through and map out what all these wires are, you know, as far as all these switches. That shouldn't be real difficult. And of course, the headlight's pretty easy. That we already know what that is. I don't see any front turn signals. I don't even see any rear turn signals. Well, that doesn't mean they're not in a box somewhere, but they're not on here yet. So, yeah, they're not currently mounted. So, why? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Jeff just found some kind of pod. So, unfortunately, Brian isn't here to tell us where all this mounts, but there has to be turn signals. Otherwise, why did he spend money on turn signal switches? So, we'll find them. They'll turn up. Yeah, that's just, oh, a running light. That's pretty slick. Well, that's the thing you got to know. We got to know that we need running lights. So, yeah, when he drops that lift off, then we'll look at, you know, I really want him to draw out his expectations so that I understand everything it needs to do. You know, luckily, he's recently retired, so he's got time, so he should be able to be available. But he's also got grandkids that live local, so, you know, it does hurt your availability a little bit. So anyway, there's our start. So I think that's going to close this intro to the bike, which I know has shown up in other videos, but it's never been its own thing. We're going to close this intro out. And the next time you see it, I believe it'll be on a hydraulic lift. I've just got to figure out where that actually will be and whether or not we want to move the lift. One of the nice things about these, obviously, is I can put the casters on, drop a car, and we can slide it wherever we want. That's really, really handy. But I don't know if we have to yet. Until I just don't have a feeling for how big his motorcycle lift is. And whether or not right here is going to work out just fine. Because we got good light right here. It's out of the way. It wouldn't hit the car. So we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. So please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you find this stuff entertaining. It definitely keeps us busy. And, you know, if he doesn't finish this year, she's going to make him get rid of it. He's got too many toys as it is. Anyway, thanks for watching.